So I'm going to share my screen with you. And I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much for joining us tonight. And honestly, is it me or are we all just a little bit zoomed out? Honestly, Zoom, 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 Kristen and I say to each other every morning. I really felt like I didn't even want to do this event anymore. And therefore, I'm especially grateful that you all showed up and made the decision to tune in tonight. And Joe and I promise to keep it short and sweet for you. So as you may or may not know, this event was planned back in January of this year. And I was out on a run early one morning, and I had this vision of putting together this epic event that was going to be held at the Discovery Center. And that's why I put this picture up, because the event was timed so that I would invite all my friends, I would invite all of my business colleagues, and we would have some wine and mix and mingle, and people would meet each other and help grow each other's businesses. And then we'd watch this beautiful sunset. And I thought, as I was running, you know what, I'm gonna text Joe and see if he'll come and give an inspirational message. So I texted him, of course, it was 6 o'clock, and I'm sure he loves getting my texts at 6 a.m. But when I texted him and asked him to do it, he said, heck yeah. So Joe, thank you so much for being here tonight. And fast forward a few months, and clearly we're not at the Discovery Center. And sometimes things don't go as planned. And sometimes you have to shift and adapt. And honestly, I'm very sick of shifting and adapting, but here we are. And as the last few days have been going by, I've been trying to figure out what sort of content to put together for all of you. And I really long to have a new idea, a better idea, because we've been on so many calls the last 8 weeks. I just kept hoping for a better idea, and I just didn't get one. And then I started thinking, there's no way that I'm the only one who's struggling with all this. Struggling with smiling in the morning sometimes, and smiling to just keep a smile on my face when I see other people on the Zoom. I really miss my friends, and I just feel like I'm not the only one. So then I decided, instead of having a couple of different speakers, we're just going to keep this short and sweet. And we are going to start by presenting a series of short inspirational messages every month. Once a month for free. And I have a lot of clients who are speakers who would love to be a part of this. I've talked with them. And so we want to lift each other up through this. We want to stay connected. But most of all, we need messages to strengthen our community and just be together, because as we know, doing life in community is just better. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce my friend Joe. Most of you know him. I'm married to Jody, 4 teenage boys. He's working at Palomar Hospital, as he said, as a chaplain, and also at Radiant Hospice. So without further ado, Joe Cole, take it away.
Well, thank you, Rachel. This feels, you know, it's funny to be on this call and like to see all your faces, because some of you I've seen recently, and then some of you I haven't. And so it almost feels, for some of us, and I'm not trying to leave anybody out, but on some level it feels like a little bit of church, because that's how a lot of us know each other. And so then we all come together, and so that's super fun. And I love that. And Rachel, I just want to say, you know, I really love your heart, and I appreciate so much. And I think this is really key, is I love that, Rachel, that you had this idea to do this business event, to grow your business and to coach and to grow other people's businesses. And I love all that. And I'm a huge fan of all that, but I love that you recognize that things have changed and that something is different, and that you are willing to, in a sense, let that go and then do something for other people that isn't necessarily going to benefit you or your business, but really speaks to community and who we are, and thinking of other people. And so I love that, Rachel. So thank you for gathering us. I mean, at minimum, if we just all kind of hang out and stare at each other for a little bit, I'm going to end this call and be super, super happy that I got to see a lot of you guys. I mean, clearly I'm envious of Chip's facial hair, but other than that, like, I love just seeing your faces, and it's super good. You know, and as I reflected, Rachel, too, about this time and this season, you know, certainly I've been studying and writing and recording a lot of different things. And I think for me, there's an unsettling that kind of sits in my belly lately. I think there's something that I've been constantly kind of wrestling with and recognizing that I just desire something different in this time. And certainly there's stuff that we're missing. I mean, I think we would all say we want things to change, right? We want Las Olas to be open again. And, we want to be able to go to the barber and get our hair did. And unless you're married to Cole, that's hard because Cole did Rachel's hair, if you didn't know that. But we all want stuff to change. And a lot of that change is certainly connected to our economy and our freedoms and the silly things that we miss about our life. But I think for me, I've spent a lot of time alone and a lot of time just at home, and I recognize that I desire transformation. I mean, I desire for something to be different inside of me. It's not the outside stuff that really I care about. I mean, and if I'm just bold enough, and I don't, you guys know me well enough to know that, if I piss you off, it's because I love you, but I'm not really concerned about my rights, what my rights are. I'm a follower of Jesus. And so as a follower of Jesus, I was bought with his blood. I'm a slave to Christ. Slaves don't have rights. I'm okay with my rights not being, I don't care about that. That's not what I'm needing. What I'm needing is something deep inside me. And I think it's a sense of belonging. I think it's a sense of connecting. I think I've been longing for and desiring a sense of purpose and meaning during this time. I think we all kind of want some change deep inside of us. It's easy to get focused on all that other stuff, but I think we all desire something, and we desire something more. I wrote down that I think we all desire to belong in a unique way. I think we all desire to know and to go to bed at night knowing that our life has meaning and significance, that we're loved and that we belong. And you know what? This is what drives us. I think this is what drives us in our decisions and our relationships and how we view the world. We all want a place to be, and we all love and want to be loved, and we all see and we want to be seen. And so at the end of the day, I think we all would agree that we need to change, right? Is there something in you that wants to change? You can nod yes, because I can see you. Great. So once again, Teresa's the only one that's listening, which I appreciate. Nothing's changed. Way to go, Teresa. No, I'm just kidding. Right? We all want something to change. And the problem is that if I look around, more often than not, I don't see things changing in a positive way. I just don't. I think part of it is because we look to certain things for change that aren't designed to change us. We look at tools and resources as if those things were going to make a difference deep inside of my soul, and those things were never designed to do that at all. And certainly if you know me, you know that the one thing that just isn't is religion. Religion is not going to change you. Religion leads to guilt and shame and do and more and guilt and shame and all the things I have to do to get all these wonderful blessings and things from God. And that's just not the way it works ever. For some of us, we look to wealth and money. And I've certainly had this conversation with a lot of people, as I'm sure most of us on this call have taken a financial hit over the last couple months. I went from working 40 hours a week to 4 hours a week. It's been a stress financially, right? You're all with me? Everybody nod yes. All right, this is a crazy time. But the reality is that I'm not going to let money dictate my value and worth. I mean, how much money is enough, right? There's never enough money. There's never enough. You'll never be satisfied, ever. You can just keep getting and getting and getting. If you look at the people that are the billionaires in the world, they're really isolated. They're really isolated, and that can't be the way that we're supposed to live. And listen, I'm not against, you guys know this, I'm not against financial success. Of course not. Just the opposite. In fact, I want you to succeed, and I want your businesses to succeed. I want your families to succeed. I want you to flourish and grow. I'm not against that. But what I am against is I'm against pain. And I know that a life lived chasing money and wealth is a life lived in want and uncertainty. Money and wealth never bring about the change we desire. And I just want to remind you tonight that you are worth way more than the value of your 401k or the balance in your checking account. For a lot of us, we look to other people for change. Certainly we look to pastors, or we look to celebrities, or we look to mentors, or people of influence, or a spouse, or Sometimes we even look to our kids to be the source of change. At the core, we might call this codependency, but you know, we just live this lie that we need other people's approval to be happy. And if you know me even a little bit, you know that I've struggled with this my whole life. That for a long time, I lived my life making choices and doing things so that people would like me, so they would approve of me. And at the same time, I lived in crazy fear that they would reject me. In fact, if I'm really honest with you guys, more often than not, I've been the sort of the clown in the crowd, the loudmouth in the crowd, but probably the loneliest guy in the crowd at the same time. That's a pretty sad place to be. And I want you to know, if you're there right now, if you're feeling that way, like nobody knows what it's like to be you, I want you to know that you're not alone. And I want you to know that I know. And there is hope, and change is around the corner, I promise. Bottom line is that we will never experience transformation, real change, or hope. We will never find what we are truly looking for in people, places, or things. Never, never. So how do we change, and what does that look like? Well, oddly enough, I think this season that we're in, this coronavirus season, whatever you want to call it, however you want to view it, I love you all. I know we all have different opinions. That's fine. But I believe this season that we are in exposes the need and the solution like perhaps no other time in human history. And it would be really easy to miss this and just to land on one side of something and then end up being frustrated, lonely, and discontent, and then to live our lives in a little bit of self-righteous contempt. And I don't want that for you. We have an opportunity here to see things differently. So, like you guys, I'm sure, I've seen families divide in the last month. I've seen family members say, well, we just can't talk now because I believe something different about what's going on. I've seen opinions becoming more important than human beings. I've seen politics become more important than relationships, and you're worth more than that. I've seen people post things online about politicians in Washington saying how evil and awful they are, and my first response is, that's interesting, you don't know them. You've never met them, and you're worth more than that. People now than ever are feeling disconnected, not just physically, but I would say spiritually and relationally. And to be honest, I think this is a scary time. And I want you to know, I think that's okay. It's hard to know what to believe. And if you look at me in the camera and say, I have no fear of getting sick in any way, shape, or form, then I'm going to push back and say, I love you, and you're probably not being honest. How can we not be? It's okay to have some fear and to be afraid. And at the same time, I read things on Facebook when people post verses and things that say, do not be afraid, God is in control. And I believe that. And then I feel like a failure because I believe that. And at the same time, I have a little bit of fear and a little bit of uncertainty and a little bit of grief, and I don't know. And so I feel scared, and then I feel disconnected because I can't jump back on Facebook and say, but is he in control? And I'm not sure because I'm supposed to be strong and have it all together. But the reality is it's okay to be a little freaked out. And in the same time, it's okay to proclaim that God is in control and do not fear, for I am with you. I think a lot of us feel more isolated as neighbors argue over rights and freedoms or which news source is the truth. Listen. If you're making life decisions about how you view other people or how you view yourself based on CNN or Fox News, that's like making food choices based on McDonald's. All three of those are businesses with the goal of selling advertising and French fries, whether it's through advertising or whatever. They're a business. And certainly I'm not saying don't watch those networks. You have the freedom to watch whatever news source you want, and you have the freedom to eat where you want. What I'm saying is those networks are simply that, a business. So I'm not saying don't watch those or don't eat a Big Mac, just the opposite, especially the Big Mac, because sometimes the Big Mac is doggone tasty. But just know that you are worth more than that, and your neighbor is worth more than that. It's not worth dividing a relationship because your neighbor watches this news or that news, because your neighbor flies this flag or that flag. People are more important than that. Just know that you are worth more than a political opinion and more than 2 all beef patties. So how do we change? And how do we stay connected? And this is Rachel's kind of mantra for the last several months, is stay connected. I want us to connect and to connect. So how do we do that? Where do we find this significance and this love that we so deeply desire during this time? And how do we fight back against the division? Let me tell you, one of the ways to fight back against the division certainly is not to make sure that everybody believes and thinks and behaves the way you do. Could you imagine a world where everybody thinks, behaves, and acts like Joe Cole? Good golly, Miss Molly. That would be obnoxious. That's not what we need in this world at all. Phyllis, thank you for your over-exaggerated nose. Because you're right, you don't need more of me. It's the differences in our uniqueness, the way we were created, that we celebrate. And so, that's what's going to kill us, is this division. At the end of the day, that's what's going to leave. That's what's going to linger. And certainly, as someone that works in a hospital, I can tell you that the coronavirus is not a fake, made-up thing. And I've watched people in their 20s with no underlying health issues get really sick and in a very short amount of time experience full organ failure and die. And I've done the funeral, and it's real, and it's scary, and it's intense. I'm concerned about that. And I'm certainly concerned about our economy. I'm concerned about people who have small businesses, people whose pensions are going away, people who the value of their homes and their retirement, that's scary and that's real. And that's a concern for me. But the real concern is the division. It's the massive us versus them. That's always been there, but now seems to scream louder and louder. Division is everywhere. We see it in race and class and gender, the haves and the have-nots, left and right, pro, for, this and that, and so on and so on. And you guys know me. I'm not against you having your opinions and your thoughts. I celebrate that. I love that diversity. But it's this division that's making the us and the them, and the chasm grows deeper, and that's going to be the problem. But it's in this time, I believe, that we have an opportunity to do things differently. It's this season that we can stand up and say, I choose something different. I'm going to make some change. I'm going to be that change, and I'm going to contribute love instead of hate. And so here it is, the way to change. The way to make real change, the way to discover your true self, to experience real love and meaning and purpose. Listen, if you're going to write this down, this is what you want to write down. This is the game changer. This is the way of Jesus. The way of Jesus was not build the building, was not grow in power and wealth and status. The movement of Jesus is found in empathetic connections with others around us, period. Jesus didn't sit on a hill and say from far away, you be healed, you be healed. Geez, Louise, leave me alone. I got stuff to do. I'm Jesus. I'll heal you. But he moved in and he moved close, and he developed empathetic relationships with people. He got to know people. I know that sounds too easy or too simple, because it is, and it's true. I work in the hospital, like I've said, and oftentimes the patients I see are in some really bad situations, especially lately. Not even just with coronavirus, but can you imagine being in a hospital and being really sick and knowing that the outcome might be death and nobody can come and visit you? And your family and your kids and your relatives can't be in there. Life-threatening or life-ending. Those people don't need a pep talk. They don't need an opinion. They don't need an ideology. They don't need cheap platitudes. Oftentimes, what those folks really want to hear, can you guess, is this sucks. Because with those words is a connection. With those words are empathy. With those words are I see you, I know how you feel, and it's lousy. This is what we want. To know that we are not alone in our fear. To know that we're not alone in our grief. in our uncertainty. Empathy brings us closer. It levels the playing field. Empathy stops us from seeing what side of the border a person was born on or the color of their skin, and leads us to a life of love and compassion for others and ourselves. This is the movement of Jesus, and you are worth it. A good friend of mine always says that happiness will never be found in people, places, or things, but real significance and love are discovered in the empathetic service of others. Connecting your life to the needs of others actually changes everything. It changes our world, it changes our nation, and most of all, it changes you. And I want you to know that you're worth it. You're worth more than great abs or the perfect skin, more than the value of your 401k or what your goofy hair looks like right now, or whether you can be with 12 people or 9 people. You are worth more than that. Why are we trying to hold on to those things? Look at the people in this meeting, the people that you love and care about. You are one of them. You are worth more than that. You are worth real love, real meaning, and real significance. I've never met anybody really who lives a life in empathetic service of others who goes to bed feeling lonely, lost, or unloved. I didn't go mute. I'm just letting you think about that for a second. And so in a world that needs change, in a world where winning and losing, us and them, seem to rule, we have an opportunity to make a difference. So let me ask you this. Where is it that you can build an empathetic connection in the service of others? For some of us, that might take place in our world or in our nation or in our city. But for most of us, that needs to take place right in front of you, right with the people that you live with, the people that live next door to you, across the street from you, our children. Where is it that you can live in service of others? This is the movement of Jesus. When you connect the train car of your life to the train car of somebody else's need, I promise you, you will grow in your faith. You will experience love and meaning and purpose like no other. I believe that this is the season to connect. This is the season to grow our neighborhoods, to listen well, and to walk in love. And I'll remind you this evening that you are not alone. And so I'm going to end with these very familiar words. Oh, are we still there? Oh yeah, we're still there. Listen, I want to end with some very familiar words that a lot of you know and have heard me say a zillion times. The crazy thing is it might seem like I've stopped saying these words, but now I say these words to individual people as I sit by their bedsides and hold their hands and look them in the eyes in their hospital bed or in their home on hospice. And it's a joy to remind them and you that your life matters. Tonight, as you go to bed, I want you to put away the politics and put away the news and put away what you're fighting for and sit back and allow anxiety and grief and sorrow to fade away and to receive the words that your life matters. All of it. All of your stress and isolation and lonely, all of your joy and connection and funky hair, all of it matters. I want you to know tonight and be reminded that you have incredible value and worth. It's so much more than you could possibly imagine. And I want to remind you tonight that you are deeply, deeply loved. It's not because of what you've done. It's not because of who you voted for or what stand you took. And it's not because of what you haven't done, that you avoided bad behavior or made good decisions or don't have this addiction. Nope. You're loved because of who you are. And I believe that each and every one of you, regardless of what you believe, each and every one of you was created in the image of God, and that you are his precious, precious kid. you are deeply, deeply loved. And I want you to know, on a side note, that I miss you all very, very much. And it's really wonderful, Rachel, that we're together and that you brought us together in this way. And I love the way that you made this not about you, and that you've made this about all of us and our community. And that's all I had to say. And I love you all very much. And I can't hear any of you. But
Thank you so much, Joe. We
You're
really,
welcome.
really appreciate it. And everyone who tuned in tonight, we will have another speaker next month, and I hope you will all tune in for that. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you all in person soon.